And you're looking at this team and you're going, well, they've lost 4 in a row. They don't have their starting quarterback. They don't have a real head coach now. How are they're 20 and a half point underdogs?
It's not good.
It's large. But this is a team that hates Ohio State. You're getting their best shot. This game makes me nervous. It feels so good to finally have Ohio State football back. I'm tired of these bye weeks.
Yeah, I don't love that there's 2 of them.
Yeah, one is more than enough.
I agree.
But it felt weird not being able to watch the Buckeyes play this past Saturday. I'm so glad.
You get a new one. You get another one this week.
Yeah, and this is one that we had circled at the beginning as this is going to be the real test of how good this Ohio State team is going to be. I mean, Texas was obviously the first one up. And now look at how Penn State has fallen. But I think, and this is just who I am, and I know you'll get this. This game makes me nervous.
Well, yeah. I mean, it should.
There are some games that I'm not, like Rutgers at the end of the year. I'm not concerned with that. Honestly, maybe even UCLA. I'm not really concerned.
That's good because UCLA is terrible.
But I'm looking at this game, and you might think I'm crazy for thinking that because obviously without James Franklin now, which might actually be a better thing, and then Drew Aller going out, which also maybe might be a better thing. And you're looking at this team, and you're going, well, they've lost 4 in a row. They don't have their starting quarterback. They don't have a real head coach now. How are they're 20 and a half point underdogs?
It's not good.
It's large. But this is a team that hates Ohio State. This is a team.
Well, aren't you their rival? No, you're not. That's the answer.
We're theirs probably.
Yeah.
This is a game where and it's true with every team, but I think more so this team where you're getting their best shot.
Mm-hmm.
And every team does that against Ohio State, right? It's a no-brainer. But this feels different. This is a Penn State team that I think has a little bit of extra motivation because they're ticked off at how their season's going.
Yeah.
This defense is supposedly still a good defense. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. But Katron Allen, Nick Singleton are 2 really good running backs.
Well, Katron Allen is.
Nick Singleton, maybe he is a guy on the team at this point, I guess.
But I agree. Katron Allen is now the feature. Like he is the feature back, and he's dangerous.
And so I think that this is a game, and I don't want to call it a trap game, but it feels like a game that for the first time all season might make you just feel a little bit more uncomfortable when you're watching it. I feel like every single year, this is for any team. You have that 1 or 2 games in the season where you should just. I would look at Nebraska last year, for example. You're clearly the better team. You shouldn't struggle with this team at all. And for whatever reason, they just kind of hang around. That feels like what this game might be. I started to kind of look through some of the different things that I thought would be key factors here. Obviously, you've got Ethan Grunkmeyer. He's going to be starting for the Nittany Lions. It's his second career start. First start didn't go well, I would say. He failed to throw for over 100 yards. His stat, 15 of 28, 93 yards, 2 interceptions against Iowa in a loss by 1 point.
And yet they still almost won that game.
And 2 of their last 4 losses, they've lost by 1 point, or I think, was it Northwestern they lost by 1?
So, I mean, listen, there's a way you could spin this, right? Like you could spin this as, well, they lost Oregon in overtime and they lost by 1 possession to UCLA and they lost by 1 possession to Northwestern and they lost by 1 possession to Iowa. I mean, this is almost an undefeated team. Like you could do that, but you shouldn't.
You shouldn't. But I'm looking at this team and I'm going, they still have Katron Allen, who's a dynamic player. But then I also saw that he had 158 against Iowa and it just didn't matter. So, and I think when you look at this offense, you go, okay, the things that keep it going are Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. And you're going, the good news if you're a Buckeye fan is only one of them can really hurt you right now on the field. It's not like they've got a receiver and a running back. Only one of them can carry the ball. I don't trust that Grunkmeyer is going to be able to really get the ball out and do anything through the air. So as long as the Buckeyes can zone in on the run game, it should be relatively simple.
You would assume, and I intend for this to cause some PTSD, you would assume it's the Michigan game plan from 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me if this is a bridge too far here, but I mean, here's Davis Warren coming in, Obviously, Michigan's quarterback problems last year, well noted. And so, again, as an aside for anyone who's kind of like, Bryce Underwood didn't have a good game. Do you remember where we were at this point last year? Settle down. But, so here's a quarterback that struggled to throw the ball well. Fantastic running back coming into the game that a lot of the game's going to rest on his shoulders. And a defense that, despite the rest of the struggles for the team, still has some dudes.
Well, and this is the thing.
As 20.5-point favorites at home. Like this has the exact same path that I said last year Michigan had, covered in razor wire and poison ivy, but there was a path. And Michigan took that path last year. Penn State has that same poison ivy, barbed wire, razor wire path.
And I just don't think Penn State's got enough of the guys to be able to accomplish that. I think Michigan had some guys. They had some dudes last year.
Mason Graham
that
Stewart,
I thought severely helped them. I'm looking at this Penn State team, and as good as the running back game is going, and not to nitpick this Ohio State defense because they've just been phenomenal. They're first in like every statistical category. They're first in yards per game, third in passing yards per game, first in scoring. But the weakest part of that defense, while still being a top 10 defense, is their rush defense. They give up about 86 yards per game. So still a really good elite level run defense. Good. But if you're going to be nitpicky and go, where's something that if you're Penn State's offense can you exploit? I'm looking at the run game and I'm going, well, that's clearly the one they struggle with the most. We've got a really good guy named Katron Allen. Maybe he can help and have an explosive day.
Well, and for Ohio State, kind of the flip side of that is on the offensive side of the ball, Ohio State's weakness has been their run game. Is Ohio State cannot seem to run the football. And so when you've got a Penn State defensive line that I still think is decent, at least, I think, deny Dennis Sutton on defense for Penn State as well. I mean, he's still a guy. He's a dude. He's going to be in the NFL. I mean, this is where, again, just the parallels to the Michigan game last year, I don't think escape me, and I don't think that it escapes Ohio State either. And that's why I just have a hard time believing. I'll give you my prediction, then I'll let you give yours here. I have a hard time believing that Ohio State will make that same mistake twice in a game that would have to play out exactly the same. I don't believe it. I think Ohio State probably stays. I'm not saying that they try and assert themselves running the ball. I'm actually saying that they don't necessarily do that, but I do think that they stay pretty conservative because the way you lose this game is the same way you lose the Michigan game in 24. You run into a wall ad nauseum, you can't stop the run, and you turn the ball over. I expect a conservative game plan from Day to make sure that those turnovers don't happen. I expect them to just play their game, not worry about style points. I think Ohio State wins this one pretty handily. I think this one is boring as heck. 27-6.
I think that this one, and we've not even touched on a lot of points. I want to make sure we touch on these.
Please do.
Because there's some storylines in this game, and we touched on one earlier that I think might impact this, because typically I would agree with you, and my prediction actually will agree with you. But the more that I think about it, I might pivot a little bit, because one of the biggest factors that we haven't talked about at all is Jim Knowles. Former Ohio State defensive coordinator, his first return to the shoe.
I remember him fondly.
A little bit of animosity, to be honest, from the Ohio State fan base, where people are wanting Ryan Day to go out there and hang 100 on him. I mean,
well, we know how well that's gone.
They're wanting him to go out there and run up the score.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at Penn State's defense, and as much as Ohio State's offense has struggled to run the ball, that's Penn State's weakest part of their defense. They're giving up about 159 yards on the ground to their opponents. This is a game where you can get those guys like Bo Jackson. Maybe you get a little bit more touches for an Isaiah West to go out there and to continue to get their confidence up against the rush defense that hasn't been able to control a lot. An interesting point of this game, there's two other things I wanted to talk through real quick, then I'll give my prediction. The one thing that I've noticed in this 4-game losing streak for Penn State that I think their defense has struggled to do, I don't think Ohio State has had to tap in yet, and I don't think that they're excellent at it, but I think it's interesting. They have struggled with mobile quarterbacks immensely in 2 of their 4 losses. Yep. You had Nico from UCLA. He went off for 128 yards and 3 touchdowns. Mark Gronowski from Iowa, 9 carries, 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is a thing where I go, Julian Saint, obviously, nobody's looking at him and going, well, the same player.
Yeah.
But you saw this briefly against Washington, where when receivers weren't open, he made plays on his feet to pick up the 3rd down. it wouldn't surprise me in this game if you saw a little bit more of that. I think I could see them being a little bit more conservative, but I think that that's been a clear glaring issue for the Penn State defense is their lack of control when it comes to leaving a quarterback spy that can actually handle it. So I think that's going to be interesting. And we talked about it at the beginning of the show, Brian Hartline, if the rumors are true and he has interest in going to Penn State, don't you think he's going to come out a little bit motivated to show just how good of a play caller he's going to be and maybe be a little bit more aggressive and maybe go there and put up some points, not only to get back at Jim Knowles and kind of do that and help himself out, but also to help maybe get him closer to getting the bag? Because if he goes out there and performs well, it's going to make it really hard for Penn State to not look at him as a serious candidate.
I feel like if you talked to the coaches, you would probably hear them say none of that matters. Again, goes back to the just win. But you can't convince me that underneath that, because we're people, right? Mm-hmm. And whether it's right or wrong, as people, like, we're going to hold that grudge. We're going to hold that, that I don't even know if I would call it selfishness, but that, well, if I can put up enough points, even if he's not actively thinking, well, this is going to show Penn State that I'm the guy. You want to go out there and you want to prove yourself. Mm-hmm. And given the way that Knowles left, and obviously Jim Knowles is coming in with some bad blood too, because and again, I'm a Michigan guy, so I don't have a dog in this fight in one sense, but Jim Knowles is coming in going, I feel slighted by Ohio State and I want to prove something. This is a pride game, not just for the players on either side, but for the coaches, which is just adds a fascinating dynamic to this, which won't matter when Ohio State beats them by 3 scores, but makes it a little bit more interesting for the storylines that are there.
100%. And as much as I love Ryan Day, that's been his downfall, is the pride at times. You saw it last year with the Michigan game where there was a book that came out recently that kind of talked through the background of that. And I forget the author's name. But he basically was quoted in there by saying, Ryan Day in the team meeting said the winner of the game has always been the person that wins the ground game. And you saw the stubbornness with it last year. And guess what?
Well, we've seen that stubbornness for a couple years.
For a couple of years. And so that's the thing that makes me worried is if Ryan Day gets back to that old attitude of letting his pride get in the way of his actual coaching ability, there could be some problems. I originally wrote this down, and I'm going to tweak it slightly. My original prediction was 24-10. I felt like this would be an uncomfortable watch. Both teams are going to go out there and give it their all because they're going to prove to each other, that they're the better team and the coaching staff's going to be prideful. And I feel like that's all going to be true. But I do think that Ohio State's just got way more talent right now. I'm going to move it slightly. I think this game ends up being 31-10. I think Ohio State puts another on the board. I think it starts off a little slow. Maybe like what Michigan was this past week. You might have a 17-10, 17-7 game, 14-7.
You check in and you go, what's going on in this game?
You're interested, and then I think mid-third quarter, Ohio State starts to kind of wear them down and pull away. 31-10, Ohio State win.
The Rivalry Podcast is part of the Varsity Network from Learfield and the River Podcast Network from River Radio Ministries.
New episodes out every Monday.
Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening right now, and follow on social media at RivalPod and RivalPod.com.
And if you like what you hear, share with a friend so they can listen too.